Let's get right into another episode of the Hollow Points podcast, where we accept the challenge of providing dangerous, thought-provoking, and sometimes controversial insights into life's most common topics.
Remember that lady who was had that fire on that little interview, and she said she don't have time for that. You remember that?
I do. I
we
do.
we we gonna have to retire her. We gonna have to stop that because it's an epidemic now. We hearing too many people saying they ain't got time for that, and they tired. So we need to tell people like why are they getting the same men, repeatable men or repeatable characteristics? Uh, how have you actually prepared your life for love? Is your failure to submit because the way that people are leading you is not to a life of laziness that you want? And are you adding peace or are you adding drama? What do you have time for? Like, have you ran into that same thing or?
I have in all of those things. And the common denominator is the person. All the time when you look at a situation and you see, okay, this tends to be a repetitive, dynamic, you have to at some point in time take a step back and say, why is it always happening to me? Now, we're in the age of victim shaming where everybody's so quick to put on the cloak of victimization and be a victim. I choose not to be a victim. And so, therefore, when things happen, I assess them and then make sure that that doesn't happen again. I think if people had that type of mentality as it related to any of their negative feelings or whatever the case may be, then they would be better off. I think that the key to success is duplicating positive results. The key to failure is duplicating negative results. Like that's because you can have things that go wrong, and then you chalk it
Mhm.
up as a L or a mistake, and you move on, not to repeat that same stupid mistake or initiate that same loss again. But when you start having these repetitive kind of chronic issues over and over again, I constantly get cheated on. I constantly get talked bad to. I constantly end up in abusive, psychologically abusive, emotionally abusive, physically abusive relationships. At some point in time, you have to realize that you are the architect of your own misery. Same thing with jobs and everything like that. It's just relationships tend to be more common because they're more common. People tend to gravitate towards whatever the herd is doing. And so when you get a bunch of disgruntled women, then all these hoes are disgruntled. I'm going to be kind of disgruntled too. Or the worst part about that is because of the way society is gravitated towards sensationalism and negative outputs and everybody having the struggle story. That's the hot thing right now. That shit, the struggle story. Everybody, rags to riches. I started from the bottom, now I'm here, and all that kind of stuff. Like you said, from Compton to Harvard. So therefore, when you have a magnificent story, if you started out being blessed and maintained a high level of success, you really timid to even speak on it or be appreciative of it openly because people always think that's bragging. They don't think that's just you saying, man, I've worked this hard. I have this, I have that. I remember when I was young, it was a situation where as much as I cared about my appearance, I also cared about my education. And so when I would get a accolade from a school perspective or win a sports award or something like that, it was okay for me to talk about that. It was okay for me to speak on all the things that I had put into these accomplishments educationally in school and also in sports and endeavors and things of that nature. But if I talked about how I brushed my hair 52 strokes to get my waves banging, that was all of a sudden conceited. Now,
Right.
didn't matter the input. I'm putting the same effort or a similar effort, as far as I'm concerned, into success. But the fact is, I'm supposed to wake up like this when it relates to how I look, but I'm supposed to work my ass off when it relates to school. You know what I'm saying? It was always the kid that it was something positive for a person to say, I never study. I just go in there and just take the test and it's easy. People was impressed with that shit. That was not impressive to me. That was not impressive to me because if you go into a test you never study and you go into a test and you come out there with a B, you have to feel bad about yourself. Because if you had to just put a little time into it, because those type of behaviors translated to how you treat life as a whole, and that's how you treat your children.
It,
That's how
it's
you
not
treat
it's not going to be noticed because you still got to be.
right.
That's going to be covered up for a while. Like nobody's going to see that this A student is lazy
Exactly.
until
Exactly.
it's time to work.
But I think once again, nobody wants to be the tall blade of grass. Nobody wants to stick out from the herd. So they do just enough to stay towards the top, but you never want to put yourself in a situation where you're on the outside looking in. And a great quote that I heard a long time ago is it's lonely at the top, but it's miserable and crowded at the bottom. So I just never wanted to be at the bottom. Never even wanted to be close. Never even wanted to. Now, I didn't think the top was
Whoever told
attainable.
you that, were they at the top?
See, here's the situation though. I didn't think the top was ever attainable for us anyway. And that's what it is. Is that what top are, like you said? There's got to be qualifiers. What top are we talking about? What top, how good are we talking? Because a lot of times all we know is what we've been exposed to, whether that be on TV or through stories or whatever. Don't nobody read, so it ain't about books no more. But it's TV and stories or whatever. And now we in a situation where the social media paints the biggest picture because a picture's worth 1,000 words, and you get images on social media, and so you create these narratives in your mind as how great the person's life is, how successful the person is based off a picture. And the crazy part about technology is that you notice because you've recently pulled it off, you can make a picture look like anything, and an old fool I think it's real.
True. And it's not just a picture these days. There are pictures, and you're also looking at the highlight film. Like you don't
Correct.
know
Correct.
that all of these events that you're seeing comes with. He shot the ball 600 times. That one swish don't make him Steph,
Right.
but all you
Right.
see is the swish.
See, and I'm not as concerned. The one thing that is interesting to me about the attempts, I'm always big on leading the league in attempts. No matter how, I want to try harder than the next guy. The issue I have is the deep fakes, where this shit was never real. There was never any attempts.
Well,
This is a
I got an
computer
issue with the
generated
attempts
situation.
when you throwing that mug like Carlton and it's not even
Uh-huh.
hitting the backboard. You have to change the shot. Do something. Your
See,
attempt got to be more attempting, like as
so
you
this
go through.
and this is where the qualifier comes in. When somebody like me says attempts, it's always implied that that means to maximize success. When somebody like a normie says attempts, they just talking about doing something. They're mistaking movement for action. I'm not just moving. I'm active. You know what I'm saying? One say I'm making move.
Right,
Oh, okay.
right.
I'm activating. That's different. You know what I'm saying? That's different. So in the idea of when an attempt is made, it's an attempt for success or an attempt for greatness. And
It's
then
an
you
attempt with
you recalibrate.
100% effort.
Absolutely. And that's where the effort. So a lot of times effort is not just physical. Effort is a mental effort. It's a putting yourself in position to be great. They say that luck is a intersection of skill and preparation. So you end up putting yourself in situations where things can occur. And so just like a relationship, you have to put yourself in a situation where a good guy is going to show up. But the one thing that's never gonna happen, you're never gonna be with an all right guy and a good guy is gonna come and try to break into that relationship. The
Okay,
good
so
dudes don't
so
do
let me
breaking and entering on relationships.
so let me ask you about your attempts then,
Hmm.
because if a woman attempts to get a lazy guy and convert him 5 different times and fail, isn't she still attempting? Does she get credit for that?
No. Right offhand, I'm gonna say no because once again, I need to know her credentials. I need to know her credentials. If I ran into a chick and she's sitting around talking about building a fucking rocket ship, and she's told me all the number of times she's tried to build this rocket ship, and then come to find out she's a sandwich artist at Subway. What the fuck is we doing? Why are you trying? So, so you have to have some type of prerequisite skill set that leads me to believe you was even capable of building a rocket ship. It's a lot of downtrodden broads out there that think that they deserve the greatest guy ever, and they absolutely are incorrect. They have not evaluated they score. They haven't evaluated they score appropriately. Certain scores do not qualify for certain outputs. Period.
So
Never will.
if you want to save a dude or build a dude or convert a dude, you saying to prepare for love, you need
Hmm.
to get those credentials to build this
Absolutely.
type of dude
You
because
you
that's what
can't
you want.
you can't give what you don't have. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you have it and you give it away, there's a degree of respect there. But you can't give what you don't have. And so if you don't have it, you trying to give it to somebody else or produce it in someone else, that's stupid. That's just there's no other nice way to say that. That shit is stupid. And then the other thing is if you don't even know what the great outcome is, meaning hey, I got this guy. I see some potential to him. I want him to end up being whatever. And that whatever is generic. Then how do you know when you've arrived? You're just hoping for the best. But the problem is this nobody's ever sat you down and taught you. You either didn't have examples of it growing up. You just going off of what you thought you heard somebody say or what you hear your girlfriend say when y'all go to ladies' night. And everybody's single and miserable, or somebody just got with
Even
somebody and she's beating him down.
even if you have examples, what make you qualified to do it? You can't do everything everybody else do.
See, that's the issue though. Everybody think a haircut look the same on everybody else. You know what I'm saying? That's that Bad Boys 2. When my man sat in the barber chair and said, "I want to look like Will Smith in Bad Boys 2." That was it was 10 years after the movie came out. Um, yeah, just because you put the haircut on, don't mean you're gonna get the Ferrari. You know what I'm saying? That's not how this works. But what happens is this: I know for a fact, and somebody, I would love for somebody to dispute me on this. You have a woman, she has a friend or a mentor or auntie or somebody that she admires or that she looks up to. And she says that she would like for her life to be just like or similar to that woman's life. Then when you ask the four layer of questioning, when you ask a couple more questions, ultimately what you figure out is no, she wants to pick and choose the positive things out of that person's life. And that's just that when you start Frankensteining a relationship, it's gonna go bad. I'm sorry. Frankenstein's monstering
Oh,
a relationship.
thank you, man, thank you. Can you
It's gonna
please
go
let me know why you corrected that? Why did you have to correct yourself?
because there's a misconception that the monster is called Frankenstein, but in fact, Dr. Frankenstein created the monster and never named him. He was Frankenstein's monster. That's who the people went after. That was the culmination of different bits and pieces of body parts he had robbed from the grave. And so the idea of putting bits and pieces of different people's highlights or relationship dynamics and trying to impose that on a guy, A, that's unfair. B, you're not a doctor. You don't have the qualifications to bring this thing to life. And then C, you're going to end up with a monster because that's
Exactly.
just not
Yeah,
normal.
you trying to take the good pieces from your ex. If any dude ever hears, well, my ex used to do this for me, why didn't y'all work out? Should be your first question.
Man,
Because if he did that and you loved it, why are you sitting here next to me? You need to go get that.
and that's what it is. It's the equation. So what was that worth? Because here's the situation. We got 100 points. How much was that holding the door worth? Was that worth 5? Was that worth 25? Let's figure out what a deposit is in your account. Because at some point in time, he was in arrears because you you bounced him. You know what I'm saying? So So, and if his arrears came in the form of cheating, uh, then that's a different conversation. But once again, obviously, what you was getting wasn't equivalent to what he felt like he was getting. Every guy can't be flawed. Now, it could be a situation where, hey, you was a great woman, and he just had a case of the can't help it, and he was flawed, and so therefore it didn't work out because he just couldn't get right. But at some point in time, you on the fifth dude that couldn't get right. Why is your scouting now? You have to at some point in time take some type of culpability and say, well, shit, my scouting is bad. I just can't
Yeah,
pick them, and then
but
and then we go from there.
you telling parts of the story though. So
Mhm,
if I choose to use technology and it electronically unlock the door
mhm,
so we both can get in the car safely at the same time,
mhm.
cool. And you mad about something because in your mind you had this expectation that a man is supposed to open the door, and you're remembering your ex opening the door, but you also don't remember when your ex opened the door and put you in, how he texted his side chick on the way around to the door to his side of the car.
I think once again you go have revisionist history when you think back on things because the one thing that happens in all relationships that did not succeed is you downplay your portion of it and you exacerbate his portion of it. Now, this is the beauty of that shit. The beautiful thing is when you talk to a woman and she says, I'm not going to say that it was all him. What the fuck does that mean, though? Like, he had a lot of problems. He came in with a lot of baggage. He had anger issues. He had money issues where he was always spending more than he was making and this and that. And you put out all of his dirty laundry. And then at the end, you give the qualifier to say, but I'm not going to say it was all him. But you don't put none of your testimony out there, none of your evidence as to how you was not great in a relationship. You just throw just that little, like I said, that's the fine print at the bottom. I'm not gonna say it was
Yeah.
all him. But then
When
if I
you
ask,
decided to take this flight together
right,
with somebody,
right,
we know that when people take flights, everybody need baggage.
right, exactly,
You telling
exactly.
everything in his bag and you acting like you didn't even have a carry on.
But here, the thought process is, I want to minimize my impact on things failing, not realizing I'm going to figure these things out at some point in time. And it's more suspicious if you come off as the greatest thing ever that he just couldn't see. Because here's the situation that shit might work twice. And then when you're 24, it's no longer working. There's no way you 32 and every dude has been wrong about you. Every good guy, because you're only attracting good guys because you're a great woman, right? I mean, let's start there. You so great that all you attract is good guys. And the fact is, if you attract the bad guys, you're just not that great. Because great women don't attract bad guys. Well, that's dumb. It's counterintuitive. It's counterintuitive to say, I am a great woman. Okay, what is your definition of great? Because if you're a great woman, so let's just build a great woman. We're going to weird science this year real quick. Great woman is, and I'm gonna use generic terms for the sake of ease of a conversation. A great woman is God fearing. A great woman is smart. A great woman is physically healthy. A great woman is nurturing. A great woman is supportive. A great woman is financially independent, or financially, stable. Uh, a great woman is hardworking. A great woman is considerate and thoughtful. We're just gonna leave it at that. Loving. We'll leave it at that. Okay. Now, you a great woman. Um, where are you meeting your guys at? Because none of those qualifications is on the club flyer. That's just not. That's not. That's not how the club
That's
flyer
right.
works. Now, if you go to greatpeople.com and you put in the stuff in your algorithm, how honest are you in your algorithm? And then that really doesn't matter because how honest is he in his algorithm? Everybody's trying to polish up the vehicle to be sold. That's just that you don't want to
Right.
get top dollar for your vehicle and bring it in dirty. You know what I'm saying? You clean it up and you spruce it up and you try to hide some of the imperfections. Now I'm not saying go in there and be scratching on your ass and all of that. What I am saying is this. At some point in time, you have to say, based on my age, based on my level of exposure, whether that means internationally, educationally, whatever exposure you've had in your life, I have to find somebody that's similar to that place in life. So if I've identified myself as a 6 on the scale of all around, I need to find somebody 5, 6, 7, period. Now, what a lot of women try to do is they try to get a 4 and polish them up to an 8. Or they try to get an 8, inappropriately believing they're 8s. You have to get some outside counsel. You have to, I would ask, and see, this is the beauty of this situation as it relates to women. Women can honestly ask their friends if they ask enough of them. Scale of 1 to 10, where would you put me as far as, on that scale? Girl, I think you're
Oh,
an 8. Girl, I think you're 8. And whatever the
would they
number
be
comes
honest
out,
though?
huh?
Would they be honest? You think?
They won't, but this is where the math helps out.
Okay, okay.
Whatever the number comes out as, whatever the number comes out as, take a point away. And
Just one.
bump that, take one, just one, and bump that up against where you thought you were. So, great example. I'm a dude. Dudes don't really get down like this, but let's say dudes got down like this. I'm a guy, and I say I'm a 7. And then I ask my buddies, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, where you put me? You're a pretty good dude. I'll put you at like, hey, the dude ain't gonna never give you a 10 because that's how dudes is. I'll put you at like a 8, 7, 8, and then they give a couple of options because that's how niggas be. I'll give you a 7, 8. I'll give you a 6, 7. I'll give you a whatever. Anyway, when it all comes down, you put it in a spreadsheet and basically they saying you a 7. I thought I was a 7. The math says I was a 7. I could believe that. I could believe that. If I think I'm a 7 and all the dudes that I'm talking to, they say, based on their estimations, I come out to be a 6, I might be a 5. These niggas might have been they might have
Cause
been
they're
kind
your
of nice
friend.
because they my
Yeah.
friends. The better way to put it down is ask your exes. Ask your exes. Because the exes have nothing to gain. If I got a girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, and I ask her, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put me as far as guys go? She's not gonna say a 2 because that's an indictment on her. Why the hell is she fucking with 2s? You know what I'm saying? She's never gonna say a 2. She can't say a 9 because that's an indictment on her. So remember, I started off this conversation thinking I was about a 7. Really thought I was an 8. Was just trying to be humble. but I threw that out there because I feel like that's respectable. If every chick that I used to fool with come back and say, I'll put you at like an 8, 8 or 9, you ain't perfect. I'll put you at like an 8. Once again, I average out to be an 8. I bring it one number down. I'm back to where I thought I was. What's gonna happen in that type of situation is you're gonna end up in a situation where you a woman and you think you a 8, or you think you a 9, or you foolish enough to think you a 10. And dudes been walking away or letting 10s go. I had a chick one time tell me, no, I've been stalked twice. Like that was her. That was
That's her
her
claim to
response.
fame.
Yes,
Yeah. And I
yes.
would have said, what
So
did you steal from him? Right.
I've been stalked twice. So they would have thought you was a 10 as well. And it was hard for them to let a 10 go. Understood.
But
Are they currently
men
huh?
men have to also think and like, why would a dude who met a dream woman be
Hmm.
just so willing to let that go so easily?
Absolutely. But this is where I got her with this one. She said she had been stalked twice. I said, I'm just gonna ask about one of the guys. Don't care about both of them. Because you said it was twice. He ultimately let you go. She was like, yes. Is he currently married? Yes. Have you ever seen his wife or do you know of his wife? Yeah, I seen her. I said, is she a 10? Just off looks. Don't even know if you know her personality.
Yep.
No. So he went from falling in with a 10, you, to settling on a 7? Hmm. That's, wow. You broke
And
it?
you single. And you single.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the math ain't mathing, right? The math ain't mathing. And at some point in time, you just got to be honest with yourself and really sit back and say, okay, wait a second, what am I bringing? What what am
Why
I
why
bringing?
are you bringing if you are five, let's say,
Hmm. Hmm.
why are you bringing this same five to every relationship? Are you ever gonna level up to six?
Mm-mm.
I don't think they
Mm-mm.
ever retool. Or can you
Mm-mm.
retool? You don't think you can?
Hmm. You here's the situation. You can if your output requires it. But here's the problem. Jane, I think Jane is a six. I think I'm an eight. But Jane got with Bill, and she don't work. He takes care of everything. He got money. He don't drink. He don't smoke. They go to church, and so you start thinking, well, shit. Wait a second. If she can get a good dude, I know I can get a good dude. But you're not factoring in nothing else Jane is doing. You ain't factoring in her lingerie game. You ain't factoring in her pot roast. You know what I'm saying? You ain't factoring in her chocolate chip cookies. You factored in nothing else except the way you see Jane and how she looks. You don't know that Jane speaks two languages. You don't know that Jane watches sci-fi and karate movies. You know what I'm
She
saying?
done
And
cleaned out
NFL
her
package.
ears and
Man, man,
listened.
you have no idea what else Jane has done because the way women operate is if they got something that they think is a secret weapon, they not sharing it. Women don't share techniques and
Why?
secrets to spread
Why?
because
Our
if they
Jane has
did
a
that, they
moral
would no longer be special.
responsibility to help her ladies, her
Mm-mm,
homegirls.
mm-mm. Let me explain why. If everybody's me, how am I special?
You special to that dude that you locked in.
The problem is this: if you look at the preponderance of women, let's just say I'm just going to be general, and I would love for somebody to dispute me on this. If I know a group of women that run five deep, two of them are capable. They dragging along the other three. If I know a group of women that's 10 deep, three of them are. You see how the number doubled, but
Right,
only
right.
only one more capable. Women have a tendency to keep goons around. They have a tendency to keep they have a tendency to keep lesser thans around to artificially promote themselves and have somebody that they can nurture. Women are nurturers. So if you got a girl that just can't get right, relationships always going left and this and that, you could always put your arm around her and say, girl, first of all, it makes your relationship seem stronger by comparison. And then number two, you always have somebody to make you feel better about the choices that you've made, the opportunities you've in, because you say, I would never be with this guy. Like I know women that I've dated that had girls that they was cool with their girlfriends. And they would come and say, well, he's taking her to Jamaica and he's doing this and he's doing that. And they giving all the things that she's being told that this guy's doing in that other relationship. And my question is always, if she wasn't with him and you weren't with me, would you be with Rodney? No. So what? So, so don't bring pieces of Rodney into this shit if you won't take all of Rodney. Because I can be Rodney, but I'm gonna be Rodney the whole way. Because I know Rodney be messing around. I know Rodney be selling weed on the side. I know Rodney, you know what I'm saying?
Be having to get bailed out of jail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, either you gonna want all of Rodney or stop bringing that nigga up in the conversation. And then at least make them think. The next time it's about to come up, don't start comparing us to Karen and Rodney. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't make sense. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. If we not, then we not. That's where a lot of if you look at a lot of women, it's only one or two in the pack that's actually worth pursuing, and they cool if it's more than them two in the pack. But if it's just a young lady and she only got one or two homegirls that she been cool with for a long time, um, they ain't too capable kind of whatever chicks. They not both of them at the top of their game. They not, and they think they are. You know what I'm saying? You got to have a Sierra and a Lala. You know what I'm saying? You they they got to be best friends like that because Lala's a divorcee that's been cheated on and ran through and now she got her own money and everything to a degree. But she can't compete with you on a relationship perspective because you, Sierra, you got a husband that's worth 400, 500 million dollars and whatever. But you can't have somebody at the top of their game, and there's no two chicks at the top of their game that you see hanging out together all the time. Just doesn't happen.
This concludes another episode of the Hollow Points Podcast, where we act as your therapeutic outlet on topics many think about but are afraid to speak on.
Oh, you're welcome.